per student over its first term. With 2 million students in schools across this province, that is a $1.6 billion in funding cuts from classrooms last year alone. Money that should have been used to improve supports for students, increase staffing levels to guarantee services, and raise the wages of education workers to pull us back from the brink of poverty. Just yesterday, Labour Minister Monty McNaughton and Education Minister Stephen Lecce were posing for more photo ops as they pretend to care about a cherry-picked subset of workers. If the Ford government is really interested in helping workers get ahead and creating good jobs in Ontario, they can look no further than these negotiations with frontline education workers. I know their focus is on men at private construction sites who, let there be no doubt, we 100% support having good jobs too. But it is time for the Ford government to acknowledge that there are many skilled tradespeople working in Ontario schools and to make sure we have good paying jobs too. CUPE frontline education workers include electricians, plumbers, carpenters, and educational assistants. Yes, you heard me right. EAs are a trade under the Building Opportunities in Skilled Trades Act 2021. My coworkers and I still want to reach a negotiated agreement that will guarantee service improvements for students, help school boards solve their very real problems hiring and keeping qualified employees, and secure a significant wage increase for the lowest paid frontline education workers that is long overdue. With our strike deadline of November 3rd only 2 weeks away, we can confirm that the Council of Trustees Association and the Ford government will be in mediation with CUPE OSBCU Central Bargaining Committee again on November 1st. We are the lowest paid education workers in Canada's richest province, earning on average just $39,000 a year. Education workers across Ontario are waiting for the Ford government to show they understand that we have already taken a forced 11% pay cut over the last decade, and now we cannot afford the basics with high inflation. And we won't let the Ford government keep saying no to hiring enough educational assistants so all students would get the supports they need and so schools can stop sending kids home because there isn't any available. Education workers say yes. We will not let the Ford government keep saying no to enough library workers to make sure school libraries are open and reading opportunities are available to kids all the time. Education workers say yes. We will not let the Ford government keep saying no to every 4 and 5-year-old getting the play-based learning support that's especially necessary now after 2 years of isolation. Support that would come from having an early childhood educator in every kindergarten classroom. Education workers say yes. We will not let the Ford government keep saying no to an adequate staffing of secretaries in school offices and enough lunchroom supervisors to keep our students safe. Education workers say yes. We will not let the Ford government keep saying no to enough custodians to keep schools clean, enough maintenance and trades people to begin tackling the $16 billion repair backlog. Education workers say yes. We are committed to stay at the table as long as movement towards an acceptable agreement is made. I'll be happy to take your questions. Go ahead, Allison Jones.
Hi, Laura. Was there any progress at all made on any items over these past 3 days?
No, we had one minimal item that we were able to discuss around bereavement leave, where we were able to establish a floor for all workers, which is great, but there are still so many issues that need to be addressed, including, the big substantial items such as wages and services that this government doesn't seem interested in talking about.
And is there a set number of days that you're coming back on November 1st, or is it just that one date?
If we are coming back on November 1st, and I have directed our team to make sure that their calendars are clear. Any other questions?
Hey, Laura, it's Colin DeMello. I can't figure out how to raise my hand.
Hi, Colin, how are you?
Raise my voice. I'm well, thank you. So can you give us a sense of what happens now, between now and November the 3rd? We've asked you this before about whether you're considering a work to rule or a full strike. Can you give us a sense of where you guys are leaning to at this point?
Yeah, Colin, you're breaking up. So I think your question was, have we taken any consideration as to what job action would look like? And we were just reflecting that in the past, we tried work to rule with this government, and it meant nothing to them. In fact, it was only when we went to a full withdrawal of services in 2019, when we were moving towards that, that we were actually able to get them to come and truly negotiate at the table. I really hope it's not going to take that amount of pressure. It should be enough pressure right now that the countdown is on. But if, we will be working all this week to see what it is that we need to do to make sure that that pressure is in place. This government has the ability to prevent any job action from happening. We shouldn't even need to talk about full removal of services or work to rule. This government knows what they need to do to prevent that. And I really think it's on the government to come to the table and start talking, not holding us in a room, start talking.
Okay, I just had a conversation with the education minister, and the education minister said that if CUPE decides to impose a strike on children, that the Ford government will act. He didn't say exactly what he meant, but are you concerned that the government may have legislation to either impose a contract or to end a strike using legislation, and what would happen in that event?
So there's two pieces that I would comment. First of all, again, the minister shows a clear lack of understanding of labor law and how negotiations take place. Strikes are not imposed on children. And this divisive narrative that this minister continues to do is really what is detrimental in our society today. When strikes are taken, it is taken in action against the employer, and in this case, the government. It is the minister that insists on using our children as pawns, and we insist that he stop. This is not helping anyone out by trying to pull on the heartstrings. What he needs to do is direct his negotiators to actually show the respect that he clearly lacks and get a deal done. Randy Toms?
Hi, Laura.
Hi.
Question in terms of if you're meeting again on November 1st, does the November 3rd bar change in any way, or is that still in place?
Yeah, that's still in place. That is the legal requirement that we have to have, a 17-day waiting period, and it would expire on November 3rd. But I want to be clear, just because something expires doesn't mean that it automatically moves towards strike. Under the School Board Collective Bargaining Act, we are required to provide a 5-day notice before any job action will take place. And we, will be looking at what our options are as we move forward.
Hi, Laura.
Carolyn.
It's Siobhan. I also
Hi,
cannot
Siobhan, and then
figure-
Carolyn, I apologize.
Sorry, and Carolyn, sorry if I jumped ahead. I also cannot figure out how to raise my hand here. The full withdrawal of services that you came close to doing last time, we didn't see it. So do you have any sense of whether schools would be able to stay open in the absence of your members performing their duties?
I think, what we knew the last time is that schools actually started to close. And that's because the work that we do is so integral to the running of schools, and especially to the safety of schools. And it's so disappointing that we have to remove services in order for folks to actually value the work that we do. It would be much easier and actually much more conducive to just recognize the vital nature of our work and ensure that we're paid properly and that it's funded properly so we can continue to do that work. But I do not, I can't surmise what the employer will do. Carolyn?
Hi, Laura. Sorry, it's a little busy here where I am, but can you hear me okay?
I can.
I just wanted to go back to Colin's question where you said that work to rule has not worked in the past. Are you suggesting that come November 5th, given the notice and things like that, that CUPE would go on strike and not start with sort of job action? Would you move to a full strike? Is that what you're suggesting?
It could be very possible. I think a lot is going to depend on what we are seeing. And right now we're not seeing a whole lot, and we're being told that there's not enough pressure in the system in order for a deal to be struck. We do know that when we did work to rule last time, it did not provide adequate pressure for this government and these employers. So, we will be working with our workers. We will be moving forward, and we will be sure to notify people as the, legislation requires. Kat.
Hi, Laura. Kat Eschner, TVO. Thank you so much. So I'm just wondering if you can speak to some of the impacts of inflation on your members, especially your members who are making lower salaries. We saw the CPI release today for September. Inflation has gone down a bit overall, but big commodities like food are still high. I'd love to hear some perspectives that you've been hearing from your members.
Well, and I can tell you that, we have received several stories just over this past, long weekend of members that were required to go to food banks in order to put a harvest meal on the table. Or, stories of where schools were collecting food for food banks, and our members were recognizing that the food was being collected, but they were going to be going to the food bank to get them. The fact remains is that when inflation, even though it's come down slightly, you're right, food prices are extremely high. And we know that that's because of big corporations making huge profits. And rather than addressing those things, we have a government that really seems to be focused on ensuring the lowest paid workers stay on the brink of poverty. It's why there's going to be a mass exodus of labor. We have folks every day who tell me, if I do not see a substantial raise, I will not be able to continue as an education worker. And for me, that is heartbreaking, because these are folks that are the caring adults in our schools. They're the ones that our students have made a connection to. I cannot understand why anyone would think that keeping them on the brink of poverty is acceptable. Colin and then Randy.
Hi, Laura. I wanted to ask about how schools would be able to function, or whether they would be at all, if CUPE members, custodians, clerical staff, etc., walk off the job. Can schools function?
Yeah, so there are, and I'm going to address it this way, Colin. I mean, there's loads of folks that talk about, oh, well, we'll just do virtual learning, right? Parents for the last 2 years have been pivoting with less than 5 days notice. And so I think, in some folks' minds, that's where it's going to be. But I would remind them that the virtual learning was supported by our workers. Our IT workers were the ones that made sure that the equipment was out, the devices were out, the hubs for internet were out. It was our workers that supported them when kids needed to come to school, because online work did not work for them. I'm not sure how you maintain, if kids are in school, how do you maintain a healthy, safe space without the folks there that, according to the minister, are supposed to be doing enhanced cleaning? Really, the work that we do is so integral to the work that happens within a school. And I think, those are, one of the reasons why we're saying, why are you cutting the funding that directly impacts the services? And also, why are you not paying people in accordance to how important they are?
I understand that, but what I'm trying to determine here is, if your 55,000 members actually, walk off the job, in your view, can schools actually open in a safe manner? And can students actually go to class?
I'm going to say, as a parent, I can't see how it would happen, but I'm not an employer. So that would be a question that I think would need to be posed to the school boards. Do they feel that they can provide safe and healthy spaces for our students that will be well supervised? Randy?
Yeah, Laura, you have talked a lot about wages being the key issue in this, but you've also identified a number of key issues that are on the table. And I guess for our area up in Northern Ontario, EAs is a big thing. If there's a movement on any of those other issues, other than the wages, do you reconsider the labor action, or wages have to be resolved before that happens?
I think when you see the turnout that we had of over 45,000 workers who gave us a strike mandate of 96.5%, it is clear that for workers, wages are key. And one of the things that I remind everyone is that collective agreements have to be ratified by workers. And at this point, I think the workers have sent a clear message that they support the proposals that we have on the table, but they've also sent a clear message that they do not support the proposals that have come across the table by the government and the employer. So I think, wages are going to have to be addressed. There is no two ways about it. Service levels need to be addressed. There is no two ways about it. Chris Rishawi.
Hi there. Thanks for taking my question. I know last time around you said that it had taken about 28 bargaining sessions before you got a deal. And what are you at now? You're not close to that, right?
So we're not close to that. And I was trying to count them up because I knew somebody would ask me, but
Okay.
I think we might be coming close to the 20 level,
Okay.
but I don't believe we passed the 20 level.
So why are you turning up the heat now when, you still realistically, maybe you've got 8 to 10 sessions left before, realistically you got a deal like you did last time?
Well, I think one of the things that we learned from the last time, and actually, if you recall, we were actually done bargaining by the beginning of October last time. By this time in 2019, we had actually resolved it and everything was put to bed and we were going towards ratification. But having extra dates where you're just sitting and looking at the four walls in your own team and nothing is actually happening is problematic. And so, we have been told several times that there's not enough pressure. We heard that from different folks. There's not enough pressure in the system. And so that's why we're saying, okay, we are more than happy to come and do more mediation, but it needs to be fruitful. It needs to be actually moving. But if we're going to come and every single time we're saying, well, can we discuss this? And the answer from the government is no. How many more dates of being told no do we actually need?
But if you do have some time before a deal could realistically be reached, does this not, I know you need to up the pressure, but does this not upset parents unduly?
I think what's also upsetting parents unduly right now is the fact that we don't have enough services in place. I think what's upsetting parents right now is the number of times that they're being told that the person who is replacing the EA support their child is receiving is unqualified, or there's not a person replacing them at all. There are so many things that are upsetting parents right now, including the rising case counts of illnesses that are happening in our schools. There's a lot that is upsetting parents right now, but it's not that workers are demanding to be paid fairly. And I think, your own article last week that clearly indicated parents support what education workers are saying, and they're calling on the government to pay us fairly. Any other questions? All right, I'm sure we will be in touch as we move forward. I wish everyone a good day.